Hey, you, get over here.
Hi, my name is Etan Cohen, and this is my golden hour.
And just like that, we're caught in the simulation. And I consider myself to be kind of a marketing guy,
Okay.
but your first impression was bar none.
I got to make this a friendly court. Yeah.
Are you a big Brady fan?
Until, but I was psyched to go. A great Brady moment is I got to go see his last game as a Patriot beat the Rams, which was a special moment.
Yeah, what a game that was. And I mean, you grew up in Sharon, right?
Sharon, yeah. So mostly Sharon, a little bit in Auburndale, and then
Okay.
I went to high school in Brookline, and then mostly Sharon, which I'm surprised you've heard of Sharon because no one ever has.
I went to one party there once. It was actually like the first time I ever drank vodka in my life was in Sharon.
You're welcome. The rumor when I was growing up, I don't think it's true, was that Remy lived in Sharon.
Jerry Remy?
Yeah. I don't think it was actually true, but it was like a point of pride.
Sharon's finest, Jerry Remy, Rem Dog. Now, in Brookline, did you go to an ISL school?
I went to Maimonides. Do you know that one?
I don't.
It's like a small Orthodox Jewish high school, like 34 kids in my graduating class.
Oh my God, what was that like?
It could be claustrophobic, but it was also, it could also be really fun. And I didn't know this when I was going there, but apparently Conan O'Brien grew up on that street. So there was a lot of Boston comedy going on there.
It's in a non-sexual way. The Boston entertainers and writers and
preface.
Yeah. Well, I was going to use the word incestuous, and I didn't want it to. I just mean like there's a lot of crossover between Boston entertainers. Like I had Lee Eisenberg, the writer for We Crashed On in The Office,
Yeah,
and
no,
he was. Yeah, I think he's probably represented by the same people. And yeah, he was just saying there was like 15 people in the office that were from the greater Boston area.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah. I don't know what it is about Boston, the pain or whatever.
It's the mania. Now, so you grew up in Sharon, go to high school in Brookline. And along this time, are you always thinking like, hey, I kind of want to get into screenwriting?
It was more like it didn't even occur to me growing up in Boston that could be a job. Like I was a comedy fan and I loved all that. But it just like wasn't even a job that anyone I knew did, or it ever even occurred to me that that's something you could grow up and do. But I was a comedy fan. I used to like buy the Harvard Lampoon just as a fan, just as like you'd buy Mad Magazine. And even then I was like, oh, I could go write for this magazine. But still, I don't know about you, but it was never, I don't know anyone who did it. It never occurred to me that you leave Boston, you go to LA and you could do something like this, because it felt to me like people that just fell off the moon.
And so did you make your first move to LA or did you go to New York first?
Well, okay. So what I did was I had, I think after freshman year, I had an internship at MTV. And so that was kind of a start in New York. And it was sort of, like everyone has their own path. Part of the frustration of this job is that there's no like set job you apply for in a set way that you go get one of these jobs. And so I had a really weird sort of backdoor to it, which was when I was working at MTV. It was when Beavis and Butthead was on the air, on MTV.
Okay. Yeah.
And so a guy came around who was like a writer or claimed to be a writer on Beavis. And I think he was mostly coming around to sort of hit on the female interns and sort of show off like I'm a writer for Beavis and Butthead. And later when I actually got to work for Beavis and Butthead, I think none of that was true. But like I was nowhere near as street smart as the other interns. So I totally believed him. And he was like, yeah, if you got an idea for an episode, just call. And I had no idea that you don't do that. So like my ignorance was a great benefit because I just absolutely called them. I was like, hey, I've got ideas for your show. And there was a guy running it named Chris Brown. And he was just like the nicest guy. And he was like, sure, if you if you send us ideas that maybe we could buy one of them. And so I started sending him just like hundreds of ideas. And we became really good friends later. And he told me just the stuff you sent me at first was terrible. But he liked that I just kept coming back and kept coming back. And finally, out of pity, he said, all right, we'll buy one of your ideas. And I think they paid $100 for the ideas. And then we'll let one of our real writers write it. And then he took such pity on me that he was like, okay, we'll let you write the script and we'll see how it goes. And that went well. So it was cool.
How old are you at this point?
19.
Okay. So you were in the game early.
Yeah. I mean, just because, like Boston, you don't even know how it works. You don't even know that's not how it should work. And so it was like, that was my college job, was writing for Beavis. And to get like $400 a script when you're in college, that's like more money than God, So like, like my now wife, like I could take her to dinner, So I was like Midas. And then, so because I did that, I was like, well, after I graduate, I might as well go give it a shot, and see what happens. And I was kind of like, well, if I fail, I can always go to law school, whatever, get a normal job. And so I came out. Mike Judge was just starting King of the Hill then.
Okay.
But they didn't, like, I got rejected off of that. So I went and I did some like kids animation. Like, I don't know if you remember those shows like Recess and like Timon.
Of course. Like I loved Recess. Okay,
cool. So I wrote for Recess a little bit. And then after a year of doing that, I got a job on a show called It's Like, which lasted like half a season. And
it's called what?
It was called It's Like, And it was a lot of like post Seinfeld writers, which was really cool.
Sounds like a tough movie to market. Show. It's like,
It was like very LA.
Okay.
It was sort of living in LA. It was like Seinfeld in LA kind of, but it didn't last. And so then I was unemployed for a while. And at that point, they were hiring new writers for King of the Hill. So I got to go on to King of the Hill. And then what was great about that was Mike Judge said, well, I remember you wrote some of the more offensive episodes of Beavis and Butthead. So I got this idea for this movie, Idiocracy, and maybe you could come help me with that. So it was just a great, random path. And then because I was doing Idiocracy with him, I think that led to Ben Stiller seeing that movie. I guess maybe he knew Mike and then said, I've got this idea for this movie, Tropic Thunder. And I got to do that with him. And that led to, because he had a part in.
I got to cut you off. I apologize.
Oh, yeah.
It's my favorite movie of all time, Tropic Thunder.
That's so nice to hear.
It's funnier every time I see it. I totally mean that. Like, some of the quips are so funny. The characters are so identifiable. Did you write the Robert Downey character?
Well, okay. So the Robert Downey Jr. character,
which would never pass today. No way.
Isn't it crazy? Like, my kids, they're now like, you should be canceled. I still haven't let them watch it. So much of my stuff I won't let them watch yet. But I remember, walking around the LA Reservoir with Stuart Kornfeld, who unfortunately has passed away, and he was Ben's producer, and just thinking, like, what's the worst thing that someone could do? Just all the North Star for that movie was just, what is the worst thing people could do? And then just was like, oh, of course, it's like blackface on top of whiteface on top of this. And so that's where that came from. Just all that was just, what's the worst? I think Idiocracy, a lot of the stuff I do is just, what's the worst thing people could do?
I think my favorite part of that movie, and this is like early Danny McBride. I don't know if Eastbound and Down was out already, but it was when he's like, go, 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 go. And then he just sends the things. And it was just a hilarious moment.
Oh, right on.
Now, when you were developing, so peel back to Recess. Did you do the movie as well?
No. I had a job that I don't think exists anymore, which was, I was sort of a staff writer for Disney TV animation. So I was kind of like on salary there, and they would just sort of, you could go write an episode of Recess. Pepper Ann, I think, was one of the shows. And so it was a lot of those like kids kind of Saturday morning shows. And I just had a job there, and they would just kind of, whatever they needed a script for, they would sort of send me to do.
Now, in that brief period you were unemployed, were you freaking out? Were you like, all right, it's time to go back to Boston? Or?
Oh, freaking out. I was newly married, and all of a sudden we had no money and no money coming. It's the story of of trying to make it out here. And we're like, well, we can't afford our apartment anymore. And we got to like start looking we just didn't know what we were going to do. I think it's the panic a lot of us have. And then sort of just thank God in the middle of that, this King of the Hill job came on. And so, and thank God that was a show that lasted for a while. And I didn't realize at the time that was such a luxury that you have a show that's actually getting picked up year to year. That would sort of save me, but then it's like you never, I mean, I know you've experienced this too. Like you can never tell, okay, now I got a job. Oh my God, there's a writer's strike. You know what I mean?
Oh man.
Hey, I'm not working for a year. You just like, it's like always this thing that you never anticipate that comes and screws you,
How did you walk into that meeting with no job when you were applying for King of the Hill and not act panicked? Because people are always like, in LA, you can't act like you're too desperate and you don't want it that bad.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess you just act that way first and hopefully your mind catches up kind of. I mean, it was sort of a funny, so I don't think people even do this anymore, like write spec scripts to get jobs.
I certainly have never done that.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool now because like people have the means of production. Like you can go make a short, you can go make a movie and show that to people and you don't have to. So like, I know this is like, makes me a dinosaur, but if like you were applying for a job, you write a sample script and of an existing show and hopefully it's good enough. And weirdly, I wrote a King of the Hill spec. You're sort of supposed to never do that for the show you're applying to. So I think I kind of went in the room maybe okay, because first of all, I knew Mike, which helped. And then they sort of saw that and they saw, okay, you can write a script for our show because you've already done it. So that really helped. I mean, but yeah, I'm sure I was panicked.
Now, how old were you during this unemployment period?
I was pretty young. I mean, I was probably 25.
Okay.
Like that, because I came out here, it was like 23, 24, was right after graduation. And then, something like that. But you know how it is. You think you're never going to work again.
Well, I've been learning slowly. I forget the guy's name who did Manchester by the Sea, but I've been learning that like writers between their projects that actually get produced and made, it could be like a 5-6 year gap. And so how writers like make money in between that time is like really interesting to me. Like, did you ever pick up like a professor job or anything like that?
No, I mean, I think part of it to me was always try to stay overemployed.
Yeah.
Try to be writing in features, try to be doing 3-4 things at the same time. So there's so much like attrition. So hopefully one of those things goes.
Yeah, that's what Jerry, I listened to like probably pretty much every Jerry Bruckheimer interview ever. Yeah. And he's like, you got to have like 9 spinning plates at once.
Totally true. Because then it's like, it's not always your fault. You know what I mean? Like you can write a good script and then and then the president of the studio gets fired, and then the new person comes in and they're like cleaning house of everything that old administration did. And suddenly your project is just in a drawer, even though, even though maybe the old people thought it was great and you put a year or 2 years into it.
Now, with the advent of like a YouTube or just how you can self-distribute content now that that's an option for you, are there any like ideas that you're like, yeah, I would like to just make this myself, even if it never gets greenlit?
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, I'll talk about one thing now, which I can't really. Okay, well, there's like a mockumentary I'm trying to make right now, and it's the kind of thing that is, most studios look at that and say like, that's never going to make any money, and so I'm trying to raise money for it myself, just going to like independent finance. In fact, I have a pitch like after this in a couple hours that got to go do that, and it's and this is something I'm doing with Mike Judge, and for years we've been trying to make it, and it's so hard to land it somewhere that you make it. At a certain point, we're just like, fuck it, we should just pay for it ourselves. You get so frustrated, which is only like, I mean, it's only something you can do because it's super low budget. But yeah, I mean, it can drive you crazy.
Have you tweaked some of the screenplay to make it more budget friendly?
I think that's going to be part of the process. You go in and you say like, okay, well, this much money, and they say, okay, we'll give you this much money, and then so they're right. There's all kinds of tricks you can do. Maybe you're going to shoot it on you're going to say, okay, this is home video footage. You're going to shoot on your phone, or you have a scene that takes place at a baseball game, and you're not going to show maybe you're going to use stock footage, or you're going to shoot like this much of the stand, so you only need 20 people or something like that. And so there's tricks that you can do. And even when you're making a feature, like when I did Get Hard, that's besides Will and Kevin, was really relatively low budget movie was left over, and you learn all the tricks, of using, you can use one location to shoot all these different things. So you start to learn that stuff in production. I'm sure when you're trying to make your own movie, you probably have to figure that out too.
Yeah, I've just kind of been directing through discipline for a long time, just because in Boston, no one directs and like it's not a thing. But I kind of learned through the process. I really like producing. I feel like I'm the only guy out here who actually like enjoys to produce. Like I like the
entrepreneurship. Yeah.
I like pulling the team together for so let's say like you sent me the mockumentary. I like trying to get like all the best people in the right roles and then bring the best out of them on set.
Yeah.
But the details with the finances, that's not really my thing.
I know, and I don't know it either. So it's funny because you go into these pitches and it's like, well, how much is it going to cost? And it's not like I'm, trying to bullshit, but like, you do the best you can, but you don't really know, right? You try to make a legitimate, good faith guess, but it's hard.
So you just say 1 billion.
Exactly. Well, slowly as you go to every meeting, you're like, okay, it's not going to be that. It's not going to be that. It's not going to be that. And then eventually, and you sort of pitching certain actors, and you have to say in the meeting, I know we can't afford that guy, but someone who looks like him kind of.
I know. I've been thinking so much about Avatar 2, and like I know the budget was outlandish for those 2, 3, and 4. And I'm like, what were those pitch meetings like? They were probably crazy.
I think you have to make movies that make $1 billion, and then you can do it.
Yeah, I know. So when you developed The Bad Guys, that was an existing IP from Scholastic, correct?
Right. So this guy Aaron Blabey, who's an Australian author, he has a series of kids books, which my kids were kind of not in that demographic, so I didn't really know them that well. But the funny thing was, we were talking about Tropic Thunder before. He was a Tropic Thunder fan. And so he kind of said, maybe you can get the guy who wrote Tropic Thunder to come do this, because you saw the movie, so it's a little bit meta in terms of it's sort of aware that it's in a movie, and we have scenes that are aware they're in a movie and referencing movies.
Break the fourth wall.
A little bit. Yeah, exactly. So it was in that vein, it's, a little bit that for kids. So that was an existing IP. And I came into, they sort of, kind of met with me, wanted me to do the movie. And I mean, initially, I looked at the IP, and it's kids' books, and it doesn't, it's, you know what I mean? It's like a book is, especially a series of books, is a whole different structure than a movie, which has to arc over 90 minutes as opposed to 20 books. So the challenge there was to go in and figure out, like, okay, we can figure out emotional arcs for these characters across one episode as opposed to 20 books. And that was the kind of challenge there. So once I kind of figured out, okay, there's a theme here about don't judge a book by its cover, and we can play that in a movie, then it started to come together and feel like a movie and not like an episodic series of kids' books.
So you would have preferred, writing process wise, that maybe it would be easier for you to write a Harry Potter movie as opposed to like a children's series. Is that kind of right? Or
no, I'm just saying a book has a different structure than a movie. And
I know, but what I'm saying is, like, challenge wise, is that a huge challenge that you have to somehow pull a story out of 15 books as opposed to like one standalone novel?
I don't know. It's just different. I don't know if one's harder than the other. Everything's hard. You know how it is. So I don't think like one's harder than the other. I think it's fun when you have existing characters and you sort of know what their voices a little bit, and what you're dealing with. I mean, it's an extra challenge when you're writing something original and you're coming with all the characters, as opposed to when, okay, I know this guy, I can write to his voice, which is kind of fun in its own way.
I don't know if this was the name of the character in the actual book. I just thought the name, like, Mrs. Foxington was hilarious. I was laughing out loud in
she actually didn't exist. And that was a funny challenge because this is the opposite of getting canceled. The books are all male. The group is all male. So like the character Tarantula was male. And this other and I sort of, having kids, I was like, well, we should maybe try to balance that out a little bit to appeal to the whole audience. So she became a new character, and then, we wanted her also to be cool and have agency and be a strong character. So then she became who she was, and we made her into the spoiler, the Crimson Paw, who was super cool. And that was a matter of like, you know what I mean? Just kind of making into a movie where it wasn't just mostly directed at boys, who are learning to read, but like a big audience and a family audience. So you had to kind of be aware of that too,
Now, yeah, like I really enjoyed the movie, and truthfully, from a production end, I really enjoyed it too. I don't know if you would know this because you're a writer, but on the production end of things, the animation seemed almost like it was at a different frame rate than most animations that are created today. Like if you were to go see a Pixar, the movement is very fluid. It was much more tactile with a lot of the characters. Was that like a conscious decision, or was it just like a new style of animation they wanted to employ?
Well, I think it was a matter of, movies people I think sort of started to rebound and kind of course correct from the super, 3D computer kind of animation, wanted something that looked a little more warm, a little more organic. And, Spider-Verse had come out, which was sort of more aware of the kind of old fashioned animation. And, going in, the sort of animation team wanted to do something like that was sort of different direction for DreamWorks and sort of pick up on what other studios were trying to do. So there was, honestly, I can't answer to the sort of technical side of it, but it was definitely like a conscious effort to bring it that way. And being an executive producer is not like being a producer. And in fact, executive producer is like one of the most meaningless job titles in movies because it can mean anything. But it was great to stay on as an executive producer. So after the writing was done, I got to hang around and sort of be part of that process too, which normally you wouldn't really get to do if you were just the writer.
Executive producer is great to say on a first date.
Yeah, and I do. Every time I meet someone, I say, "Hello, executive producer Rebecca." And watch the sparks fly.
Hey man, if you want to say you're the executive producer on my movie and it's going to get you in some doors, go for it, man.
Yeah, thanks. It doesn't mean anything, so I could totally be the executive producer.
I know. I had a meeting with a guy last night. He was like, "Hey, dude, I'll do anything for that EP credit." I was like, "All right, man, anything, okay."
But it's so funny, like it looks, like when you're not doing it yet, and you see executive producer, and it's like, oh wow, executive producer. But then when you realize it's like, okay, the author's agent is an executive producer just because he's an executive producer. It's kind of it's an all job.
Now, in the movie, I thought, this is from my honest standpoint, I thought you just did a really good job making it very relevant. And I wonder, and that it was like that with the first Spider-Man. I felt, though, like one with Tom Holland and Jake Gyllenhaal, it seemed like the ideas were like when you were writing a year ahead of their time. So when the movie actually came out, the ideas were super relevant. Like he was talking about simulation and metaverse and all this shit in the first Spider-Man. I thought you did a very similar approach with this movie. How do you make a calculated decision like that in your writing? Like, okay, in a year, that's probably still going to work. I
mean, I definitely didn't.
Okay.
And I also think like if you're trying to come out with a message, it makes for really bad writing. So yeah, I mean, that's fine. Someone just asked me like how do your values become part of the characters you write, or like the ideas you want to get out there become? And I think it's almost not intentional. Like, when you're writing and you sort of say like what makes a hero or what makes a villain, you kind of can't help but put your own values into it, what you think makes a good person, what you think makes a bad person. So in writing the movie, it was just about what's a good idea or what's a nice thing to, not on purpose to sort of hit people over the head with it, but just something that spoke to me. And then it, for better or worse, things happened to catch up with it.
Now, what was like writing this in like the release? Like, what's it been like for you? Has it been exciting? I mean, it's not like a Tropic Thunder, like a huge blockbuster movie. It's a kid's movie, but do you still are you feeling stimulated by the release? And
oh, for sure. I mean, especially, these animated movies, it was literally 4.5 years of work. So
oh my
it's
God.
so fun right? It's so fun to finally have it out there and people seeing it and people enjoying it. So it's, in a funny way, it's a little bit anticlimactic because you've been waiting for it for 4.5 years, and it came out. It's like, oh, it came out, on to the next thing. But it's great. It's really a lot of fun. It is different. I think just the economics of these things are different. It's a hit, and it was number one 2 weeks in a row. But in the same, like by the same token, that box office would have been like a catastrophe. When these anime movies came out and they made $100 million in their first weekend, and that, like the Madagascar movies, they were like that. Kung Fu Panda movies were like that. But now that's just not what the economics are anymore. So it's definitely a different feeling. It's still satisfying to get it out there and have critics like it, have people like it, have it be the movie, have people get out of their house even though it's COVID and go see it. But it's for sure different.
Are you like a purist when it comes to the writing? Like, are you like, I only write for the screen, or like in the back of your mind? I mean, this was 4 years ago, so streaming wasn't as prevalent, but were you like, I would like this to like look nice and be adapted nice for an HBO or a Netflix?
Not at all. In fact, the opposite. It's sort of more recent things where people are like, even big Disney and Pixar movies are going right to streaming. And it didn't occur to me until, you have, before the movie comes out, they have test screenings, and you go and you see the audience. You get a bunch of audience that come for free to get free. You give them free snacks, and then and often they record the audience while they're watching the movie to see where people are laughing, where people are getting bored, and then afterwards they do a focus group, and they ask like the people who just watched it all kinds of questions. What you like, what you didn't like. Would you recommend it, not recommend it? And then for the first time, I heard the guy who was running the focus group ask the question, "Did you pay to go see this in a theater, or did you just watch it on streaming?" That was like the most terrifying thing I'd ever heard, because it didn't even occur to me that you put in all this work and that doesn't come out in theaters. But that's like the brave new world of writing these things. It was the opposite.
Can I make a quick assumption without you being pissed?
Okay, that's a loaded question.
How's this? I'll flip it. Would you be opposed if I made an assumption?
Not at all.
Do you like to read?
Love to read.
I can tell, man.
Is that the offensive question?
I just didn't want to offend you, man. I didn't know if I was making an assumption. Now, if you were like in my position, just made a movie, coming out to Los Angeles, want to produce, want to get involved in as many projects, what would you read?
You're in LA now. Oh, sorry.
I'm in Culver City, brother.
Oh, wow. You mean like screenwriting books and stuff like that?
Just what's helped you?
Oh, boy. I mean, I think what really helps is reading a lot of scripts of movies you like, and see how they do it and what works for them. I mean, there's a lot of those, basic. I mean, it's not fair. Like if someone just who'd never done it before and just said like, "What's a book I should read?" I might say like, "Oh, the Save the Cat book," because it's so digestible and it's easy to read and sort of gives you an idea of the basic structure. Like I don't think you should make your movie based on what you read in Save the Cat, but it gives you like a nice sort of
basis.
Just a real lay of the land. But I think it's really been reading scripts and honestly just watching movies. It's not always reading scripts, but just going watching movies as many as you can and seeing what they do.
Do you have a favorite Boston movie?
Ooh.
Besides Apple Cinema, which I'll email you after this, my film.
Yeah. What counts as a Boston movie?
Irish Mob, Crooked Cop.
Yeah.
Red Sox.
Yes, the documentary about the 2004 World Series.
I forgot about that documentary. What was that called again?
I don't know. I probably have it behind me somewhere.
Kurt Schilling was on the cover, I think.
Could be. I don't remember, but all I do remember about that movie is it's all about the Yankees series, and then you get to St. Louis and it's like 5 minutes. Like no one cared. Like the real World Series was the Yankees.
What a crazy series that was. Were you in LA for that?
No. No, actually I was. And my family, we all met in St. Louis.
Oh, wow.
That was pretty cool. I got to see Game 3, which was Pedro's last game on the Red Sox. So that felt like a cool piece of history. But yeah, you know how it is. Like my grandfather and great grandfather died waiting for that, like waiting for that World Series.
The curse of the Bambino.
Seriously, and then it was like our lives. What's the purpose of our lives now?
Yeah, everyone was having an existential crisis. Like, we can't be pissed anymore. This is crazy.
Yeah. And what does it mean to be from Boston if you're not angry all the time about the Red Sox?
Yeah, I had the Red Sox CMO on the podcast, and he was just like an intern at that time in 2004. And he was like, even being part of the team was just like this crazy. It felt like a Disney movie, he said.
Oh, yeah. And it was like out here, it was weird because like any Red Sox fan, like I remember walking down the street just like in a Red Sox shirt, and some guy just pulled over and he was like, "This is the year." It was just like brotherhood. Like anyone you saw were like a family. That's not really true anymore, but it was a moment.
Just grabbed you. He's like, "I fucking love you, man."
Brothers.
Hilarious. Are you a Celtics guy too, or?
I mean, as a kid and like, turning off the sound on the TV and putting Johnny Most on the radio, like on top of the TV. That was, Larry Bird, those are my years.
Are you following it this year at all?
Honestly, not. No.
You're busy. I understand.
No, but I mean, honestly, like my emotional connections to the Red Sox more than anything else. How about you? Do you like, and then you come out here and you've got to pick a team kind of to, you know what I mean? So you can go to a game here and care about it.
I haven't, I've been here this is like my 11th day. So, I mean, no, but I mean, I can tell there's a lot of bandwagon fans out here.
You gotta go. It'll never be the same. But you gotta go and pretend to be a Dodgers fan.
I did go to a meeting at Dodger Stadium, and I will say it's a really cool stadium. It's just like this. It's like kind of on top of this hill in this like little neighborhood.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like it's amazing how now it's like one of the oldest parks, right?
It must be. I mean, Fenway and Wrigley, right? And then probably Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, it's from the 50s, right? Yeah, now that's old, I guess.
I drove out here from Boston, and I stopped at Wrigley's. Really cool park. You ever been over there? Chicago's not that cool of a city, though. Just freezing. I mean, how old are your kids?
I've actually got, I have twin 18-year-olds who are leaving home to go to college this year, and a 14-year-old.
Okay, so you're past like father-son bonding time era.
Not at all. We go to games all the time. I took him to Game 5 to see the Red Sox beat the Dodgers.
Oh, really?
It's like a great formative experience. Now, I've raised them all Red Sox fans. They're not allowed to root for anything else.
Okay, nice. Word. That's great. I mean, yeah, I've heard a lot of people are like, I only like this team because my dad likes this team. And so that's how a lot of people are raised. Were your parents were big fans too? Yeah.
I always went to games with my dad. And like, it's like such an emotional night. Funny. I took my little brother, the first day the Green Monster was introduced, and it was like Kids Day at Fenway.
When was this?
Probably early mid-90s.
Okay.
I want to say. And it was so funny because it was such a Fenway moment. Like they bring out the Green Monster, and it's like Kids Day at Fenway, so it's like all kids. And of course they bring in all the fans are like, sit the fuck down, like get the fuck off the field. The Green Monster. My brother's like cowering. They weren't ready for a mascot.
He's got crazy PTSD. Oh man. Wow. So it was mid-90s. Yeah, before that there were no seats up there, right?
Oh no, not the Green Monster seats. I mean the
mascot. Oh, you mean the mascot? Yeah. Okay. I thought you meant they were unveiled at the same time, the seats and the mascot.
Later. I've never sat there. I think that was a bunch of years later.
Well, they add to the park every year.
I guess so. Yeah. It's sad. I haven't been able to go to a game in a long time. But yeah.
Have any of the films that you've worked on been shot or produced in Boston?
No.
Because they bring like 4 or 5 big budget productions every year.
Do they still have like a tax credit?
Yeah, they do.
Yep. No, I mean I'd love to.
Well, you'll have to do your independent mockumentary over there.
For sure. Look, I've got the main character works at BU, so I'm trying to push us that way.
Nice. Is he a professor?
He is a professor.
Okay, cool. I'm starting to kind of connect the dots here.
Connect those dots.
Okay. I had two more questions, man. Thank you so much. I've had a really good time. I appreciate it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. This was one of my questions. Like, what was it like producing comedy in the Tropic Thunder era as opposed to now? Because that was like, when I look back, that was like when Ben Stiller and Adam Sandler and Will Ferrell were all dropping those huge comedies, like for like that 8-10 year stretch. And I mean, you were really in the mix. What's it like compared to now?
I mean, wow. I mean, I think it feels like the era of the big budget comedy is over. You know what I mean? People will spend all that money on, you know, a sequel, like a big IP, like Harry Potter, like a Marvel movie. But I can't even think of the last huge budget comedy. I mean, Tropic Thunder must have cost over $100 million. You know?
I mean, The Rock and Kevin Hart have some pretty big comedies, but yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. It just doesn't, I mean, if you're talking about making a comedy or pitching a comedy, you're not talking about, you know, it's something you can make for what, 30, 40, which I know is still a lot of money, but nothing compared to the old days.
But what was that like for you as a writer? Like, I'm sure, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, just the ideas that you're thinking about are not these huge world building ideas. There's, you know what I mean? You're sort of like, I hate it, you know, that we're in comedy, you hate to be self-editing, right? Because comedy should be all about, you know, just sort of letting it flow and not censoring yourself at all. But I think sometimes, I can't think of something specific, but an idea that you might have had that is like, okay, this is gonna be a 50, 60, $70 million movie. I might say like, have an idea that I throw out to my agent or manager and they're saying, okay, but there might not be a market for that. You know?
So maybe a series, right?
Yeah, well, and that's a really good point, because now a lot of those things are becoming series, which is really cool. Like, you know, now a lot of the great stars and there's actually like the budget of something like Game of Thrones or even some of these big like serials are as much as what a movie would have been, right? It's like $10-15 million an episode, and there's a lot of great work in TV. So you're right. Yeah, I mean, I haven't really done a lot of TV lately, but yeah, for sure.
What do you watch right now?
Oh God, I was just watching this last night, and it's not a comedy, but have you seen Under the Banner of Heaven?
I haven't. Let me write it down.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a true crime series set in the world of Mormons.
Wow. When did that come out?
Just now. It's on right now.
Netflix?
It's HBO, I think. Yeah.
HBO.
And my one of my daughters is a ballerina, so she spent a year living in Salt Lake City, dancing for the company there, and she has very strong feelings about LDS, and so it was really, and we've been there to visit her, and you know, not like we know the world, but it was very interesting to see it now as a series.
Yeah, I drove through there to get out here, that area.
Right. Did you spend time there?
I actually spent time in southern Utah, which looks more like Mars. So Utah's just like, I really felt like I slept a night in Mars. It was crazy. Like it looks like Mars. It felt like aliens lived there. And but I did get a little taste of the Mormon lifestyle, and that is really interesting. I'm sure it's a really captivating series. Oh
yeah, you should check it out. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of interest. I mean, it's not the Book of Mormon, which was also amazing. I don't know if you've seen that, but that's something every human should see. But it does like this sort of dramatic version of kind of unpacking the history of the church.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write it down again.
No, it's funny. I was thinking because, you know, I have a religious background. So I think when I went to college, they put me in a roomie group with a Mormon kid because they thought like, you guys are the crazies. So even though you're different religions, you'll get along with each other. And it's true.
You guys were friends?
We were, yeah. I didn't dig too deep into the history of LDS, but they're all.
Where was your bar mitzvah?
Sharon? No, Canton.
Nothing like classy Canton.
Canton, where the subway is and the Friendlies.
Not far from the Auto Mile.
That's right, 128. And
well, hey man, thank you so much for your time. I end these episodes with 3 things.
Okay.
First thing. Number 1, is there anyone you think specifically I should get onto the podcast?
Wow. It's a great question. I think to some of your questions about production and what people are making now in terms of comedy, it might be really interesting to get like a producer or a manager, sort of cross those worlds. I think that'd be a really interesting conversation that people don't hear a lot.
I agree. If you know anyone, please put me in touch. It'd be great.
We can have that conversation offline. Love it.
Cool. Next, I'm definitely going to send you a 45-second trailer of my film. I think when you see it, you're going to be like, dude, this dude knows what he's doing producing something, but he has no business writing anything. I had to finish the screenplay. I had to overdose on Adderall. All right. I'll tell you how much.
We all should. I mean, it's fun. It's interesting because I think people don't, like when they hear the word producer, they don't realize what a creative job it is. And and how much of like the fabric of a movie it is. And, I think a lot of times writers come to producing, because it's like a kind of a related muscle. Like there's a woman I work with now who's started as an assistant, and she now works with me like as a producer, kind of creative executive. And she came to that through, because she's creative, and she came to that through writing. And then you realize like producing is a really creative job.
Cool. Yeah, I agree. Now, finally, this is how I start and end the episodes production-wise. You have to say, hi, your name, and this is my golden hour. Directly after no break, hi, your name, and that was my golden hour.
Hi. Okay. So, hi, my name, and this is my golden hour. Hi, my name, and that was my golden hour. I think
you got it, brother.
My level cognitive test. Okay.
Go for it.
I totally forgot. Hi, my name is Etan Cohen, and this is Golden Hour. Is that right? I got it wrong.
Wrong.
Okay, you gotta say it again.
Hi.
I just want everyone to know I went to Harvard.
I know.
I'm not as dumb as I sound.
A Harvard guy, a linguist.
Hi, my name is Etan Cohen, and that was my golden hour.
So, all right, Etan, let's rewind. This is my golden hour.
Yeah.
Break. That was my golden hour.
So I don't say my name.
You do say your name.
This is like a who's on first then. Hi. Now I'll never be able to do it. Hi, my name is Etan Cohen, and this is Golden Hour. Hi, my name. God damn it. Hi.
I'll be honest with you, like 75% of people, it takes at least 9 tries. So you're not doing too bad.
Okay, good. Give me 7 more. You say it again, and I'll repeat it after you.
Hi.
Just do the first one.
My name is Etan Cohen, and this is my golden hour. Hi, my name is Etan Cohen, and that was my golden hour.
Hi, my name is Etan Cohen, and this is my golden hour.
Boom.
Do I sound like an asshole though? I think you do a take like that. You sound like an asshole, but I'll do it.
I thought you sounded good.
Does it sound good? Sound professional?
You sound good, man.
Okay. Hi, my name is Etan Cohen, and that was my golden hour.
Not perfectly executed, but we'll take it, man.
No,
good work.
I'll do it again because I can do it now.
All right, you got some sauce now. Yeah, put some of that Hollywood sauce on it.
Yeah. Hi, my name is. I can't remember my name. Hi, my name is Etan Cohen, and that was my golden hour.
Boom. I loved it, man. Cool. Thank you so much, man.
The things you can get self-conscious about.